We're going to start with the good because you know what? The Fed gave us the bad yesterday. We're going to bring the good here today. We're going to start with O'Conical. And if there's anything good in earnings, it always starts with energy. That's what it always starts with. ConocoPhillips comes in at 360 versus 341. So a slight beating on EPS numbers. Revenue came in at 21.6 versus 17.7. That's a $4 billion beat on revenue coming out of ConocoPhillips. I'm really excited to see Mark, FactSet is such a great company. Number one, if you ever want to go dive into earnings, I live in FactSet. I love FactSet. Get a lot of my earnings numbers and overall viewpoint from FactSet, and they do a wonderful job. I'm really looking forward to seeing where these blended revenue numbers are and these blended EPS numbers are following this week. They should have improved from last week, and a lot of that is the energy space. Energy companies have been very, very, very good over the course of the last week or so. ConocoPhillips, really good report coming out here today. MRO, Marathon, the cousin to MPC is MRO. And Mark, we got a high base breakout here on MRO versus, kind of the train left the track station a little bit with that breakout on ConocoPhillips. Not necessarily the case here on Marathon. Breaking out of resistance here. Obviously coming in off the low point, real good green candle. That is a breakout officially on MRO. They came in with 124 versus 119. Revenue was 2.2 versus 2.1. That represented, let me make sure I get my numbers accurately. I believe that was a 55% increase in revenue year over year. Not the impressive numbers that we've seen out of some of the counterparts in the energy space, but a beat and a 55% increase in revenue year over year. Not too shabby. Not too shabby either. Not my favorite one coming into next week, but you'll see our favorite ones. We're definitely going to have some energy on the bull scouting reports coming into tomorrow. So I like it, but I like quite a bit in this.
Yeah, no, Marathon has been a company I've played several times in the last couple of years. I have a naked put at 23 that, expire in a couple of weeks. It's obviously going to expire worthless. I'm going to move to something else because it's fine report, right? But there were so many things that had better earnings reports. Like you got a lot of choice. You have no shortage of great companies doing it in energy, right? So I think I'm going to move along from Air Marathon to find something else.
I don't know who STJ is, but he said you guys are really stretching if you're hanging your hat on a pivot. Did we say pivot? Like, is that in your analysis?
Oh, bro, we are not your
wrong station for that, bro.
Yeah, I don't know who you've
been wrong station for that one.
Yeah. Because we've just been like, yep, it's gonna be a pivot, blah blah. You obviously haven't heard anything.
Haven't heard
like
anything
months,
in anything. Listen, moving on, but no, that's not our analysis. We don't anticipate a pivot. In fact, I don't anticipate a pivot till bare minimum. Fourth quarter 2023, most likely 2024. That's kind of where I think a pivot occurs. All right, let's move on back into earnings.
And there are ways to tactically play a market regardless of what the Fed does, believe it or not.
Yeah. Other things to say other than pivot and pauses too. Marathon, let's move on out of the energy space, Mark, and let's talk a little bit about the gold market. We did talk about gold earlier today. Gold meaning Barrick Gold did have earnings as well. The earnings EPS number not bad, but the revenue is extremely light here on Barrick Gold. They came in at 13 cents versus 11 cents. Revenue came in $600 million light, 2.5 billion versus the 3.1 billion. I mean, think about how impressive those energy reports are. And a lot of their energy that we love out of energy right now is from a revenue perspective. Gold here is just the polar opposite. They came in with a really big miss on revenue, 2.5 versus 3.1, and that is simply just not good enough, especially given the fact what the dollar's doing. Gold mining stocks, specifically the gold miners, are going to take it on the chin a little bit, and we're seeing that in the gold. We do need to see that slow down. There is no doubt about that. Mark, next one, Qualcomm. And Qualcomm gapped down, and Qualcomm was the one that was all over the news over the course of the last few hours because of what they said in their guidance report. In terms of guidance, they did lower guidance quite substantially. In fact, I believe they lowered guidance by about 30% for the fourth quarter EPS number, which is a dramatic decrease in guidance, quite frankly, coming out of Qualcomm. Their raw numbers were not anything to hang their hat on. I mean, they weren't bad. They were lukewarm. They came in line 313 versus 314, 11.4 versus 11.4. That represented 22% increase in revenue year over year. But again, a 30% haircut to guidance is nobody's going to care what the EPS number is. Nobody's going to care what the revenue number is. Nobody cares that it grew 22% year over year. You 30% haircut in guidance, you're going to get smoked. And that's what happened on Qualcomm. Technically, really don't see anything here, Chucky. So moving on from Qualcomm as well. A couple tackle 25 stocks. Barrett Gold got slaughtered. That is the first one. eBay is the second one here. eBay coming in off the lows, fighting a little bit of a short-term reversal analysis, obviously anchoring against the 50-period moving average. Certainly feels like a covered call environment here for eBay, and their earnings report kind of supports a little bit of neutrality here. eBay comes in with 1 versus 92. That's an 8-cent beat on EPS numbers. Revenue did top, but just slightly 2.4 versus 2.3. That did represent a 4.8% decrease in revenue year over year. eBay does provide guidance, and they did officially maintain guidance. And so a very, very lukewarm report coming out of eBay. And quite frankly, market probably has it right. A lot of volatility in the market, but inside candle and not a gap to be had here. Again, you come in line, you beat on EPS, you maintain guidance. It feels like another day that ends in Y. That's what it was here on eBay. It feels like a covered call environment.